Last week, we brought this championship to the halfway point at one of the most iconic Grand Prix circuits in South America. This week, we officially start week number 2, and we go to the most iconic Grand Prix circuit in all of the UK. This is round number 7 of the Skip Barber Racing School Championship, live from Silverstone on RaceBot TV and iRacing Live. Join us in just a few moments' time.
Hi guys, I'm Scott Speed, driver of this amazing Volkswagen Beetle GRC car. I got good news for the iRacing fam. We got this coming in. I'm currently working on it myself personally to make sure that it is as accurate as possible. With the addition of dirt and now this mean car, it is gonna be so fun. And it's gonna be available free to all the iRacing members. Personally, I can't wait to get out there and race you guys on it.
What's up, iRacing fam? Qualifying currently underway in your Skip Barber Racing School Championship here at Silverstone. Randy Chineth, Alvin Nieves, and Hugo Louis bringing you all the action of this 12-lap race today. Alvin, last week, Interlagos, we saw it last season, and really is pretty much the same as what we expected. A lot of intense racing, couple 4-wide moments. Here at Silverstone, I think it's going to be a lot of the same. This is almost, I would argue, a simpler version of Interlagos.
Not only simpler, but you also have to consider it's a lot flatter. And yes, we were here last season, but we were running on the international layout. So yes, a lot shorter, not really any different from what we're going to see today in here, Randy. But because we are on the Grand Prix layout, that means there's going to be a lot of slipstream. And I'm pretty sure if the last race wasn't any indication on what we saw in the front plus the 4-wide moment, Randy, up in here, 4-wide will be the order of the day.
Yeah, 4-wide at Silverstone in these little Skip Barber cars is definitely possible. We saw these guys race at Silverstone last season. That was on the shorter national layout. Here, we're on the full Grand Prix circuit. What I mean by a simpler version of Interlagos, the tracks are very different, Alvin, but they share some similar characteristics, especially for these cars, which is the very long straights, very wide, and some very fast sections on the racetrack. The reason I would call this simpler is you don't, like you said, you don't have the elevation change, and a lot of the corners really aren't as tricky as Interlagos. This is actually, you know, except for maybe that turn 1 in the Magnus Beckett's Chapel complex, maybe the going through club, this is actually a very simple circuit.
Absolutely, Randy, and if you think about it, not only the elevation changes, but pretty much you are assured that you won't have any of the off-camber turns like you may have at turn number 4 at Interlagos. Pretty much up in here, it's pretty flat. We have to remember that this used to be an airfield all the way back in World War II. So yeah, it's a lot flat. You would expect, because it wasn't a former airfield, to be a lot bumpier, but it's a relatively smooth track, I have to say.
Yeah, it is quite smooth. One of the, as I said, most iconic circuits in the UK. As qualifying is currently getting its way underway, and let's look at some of the provisional results. Currently, Felipe Bear on top with a 2-minute 7.738. Then sitting in second is Greg Seitz with a 2-minute 7.790. Alvin, the fight for the top 2, very, very close. So we're still waiting for a couple drivers to come through. And Kane Halliburton, again, close as well, with a 207.939. The top 2 very close, and Halliburton in third, just another couple tenths back.
Not only that, but Randy, you know, this is one of those tracks that perhaps qualifying may not really mean that much. Pretty much what we saw last season at Interlagos, that we saw the we saw the race overall, and really starting on pole position, yes, it can help a little bit, but with all the slipstream that we're gonna have here, I think the patience from the pack is gonna be even more important. But something else also to consider, it's you need to get some air, because if you don't get the air, you can overheat these engines. And Randy, we have seen some engines going kaboom.
That they have. And before we go to your starting grid, we're going to look at your championship standings as they sit. Felipe Bear currently on top. Your top 5, Seitz, Gwindy, Witten, and Halliburton. Then Sainz, Gredstad, Morton, Smith, and Fernandez. They round out your top 10 in points. But as the grid is getting ready to get set, let's go down your starting grid for the 17-car field today. So with a stellar lap from Felipe Bear to give him the pole position with a 2-minute 7.738. Greg Seitz, also a stellar lap, but not stellar enough for the second position of the 207.790. Second row made up of Kane Halliburton and Justin Tipton, with Andrew Picario and Carlos Arias Sainz making up row number 3. Row 4 is Tuan Tron and Håkon Gerbstad, with row number 5 made up of Carl Dronke and Justin Smith. Mike McCourt and Jeremiah Morton, they made their home on row number 6, with Alex McKellar and Christian Kavenga making up row number 7. Daniel Fogarini and Edward Valario, they're going to be row number 8, with Vivek Reddy making up the final row on row number 9. 12 laps here today, Alvin. A lot of high-speed sections, a lot of drafting here. Where do you think is going to be a trouble spot for these drivers today?
If we look at where the trouble spot will be, especially, I'm really interested, pretty much, because the run all the way to turn 1, yes, they have to lift just a little bit, but going through the Beckett's complex, I think that's where the really interesting part is going to be, because if they're going side by side, I think they can, but if they start pushing a little bit too much, well, we can see some contact.
So, as we're just waiting for a couple of cars to get onto your starting grid, everyone's there, the revs start to build. Green flag is in the air, and Felipe Bear is away, followed by Greg Seitz and Kane Halliburton. 4th place center of Justin Tipton. He gets a good start, as does Andrew Picario in 5th. All your top 5. Very good leads down into corner number 1 here at Cops. They're just about to be single file amongst your leaders, but a little bit of side-by-side action deeper in the field. This corner number 1 of Cops, always very tricky. The runoff is slick, but you need to run out wide to get speed, and then you get this second section of the racetrack that you need to try to funnel yourself down to single file to run through Maggott, Beckett's, and Chapel. These S's so quick. There's only really one groove as these guys trying to get them single file, but there is some side-by-side racing here as Jeremiah Morton, he gets a little sideways, gets it back together though, but a very close moment in the middle of the pack early out.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic start here by everybody, you know, and even with these cars being so underpowered, looking them go through Maggott, Beckett's, Chapel, they look relatively fast. So you know, these cars, you know, they are all about the momentum, how you can keep it, and all these cars, you know, it looked like relatively simple how they kept that momentum going. So really good start here by everybody here in the field.
Down into the Vale and Club for the first time. Pretty much the slowest segment of the racetrack, and they're going to come out now through this long right-hander at Club. The exit's very treacherous, but in these little Skip Barber cars, the exit actually a lot tighter than you might think. You'll normally see the higher-end cars, both single-seater as well as GT, the tin tops, run out to the curb. These guys like to keep it to the middle of the track. Now, down into the Abbey chicane, and you quickly begin the run down under the bridge, back into the tight section of this racetrack. Fast right-hander under the bridge here, and then you're hard on the brakes down a couple gears for this tight left. And Alvin, this section of the racetrack is so slippery here as you try to get yourself through Priory, then into Luffield, the final corner, the long right-hander at turn 16 is the corner of car number 1, Felipe Bear. Huge slide out there in the race lead.
Yeah, not only slippery, but very important. Getting that good run here out of Luffield and Woodcut as they go, as Felipe Bear goes really wide, trying to keep that momentum coming here towards the start-finish line. I think he's kind of starting to realize that the pressure that Greg Seitz is starting to put on him. But not only Greg Seitz, but you also have to consider Kane Halliburton, Justin Tipton, and Andrew Picario. Your top 5 right now. This track, if they start forming packs, this is where things are starting to become really interesting, because a fight here for P4, as a little bit of a slide there by Justin Tipton coming out of turn number 1 Cops, and but fortunately able to keep P4.
That little mistake cost Tipton just a little bit of momentum, and that's going to see our first little bit of a breakaway. The top three, Felipe Bear, Greg Seitz, and Kane Halliburton, have managed to get away from this second pack of Tipton, Precario, Sainz, Tron, Grabstead, and Dronke that work themselves down this long back straightaway now into this right-hander at Stowe, all the way down the hanger straight. Now into this long right-hander. Really the only elevation change happens at this point of the racetrack here, Alvin. Sort of go up and you crest basically at the apex and you come right back down to this little short shoot down into Vale.
Well, on this old version, well, this isn't the only part that you have the elevation change. You also have to consider the part going into the bridge, going into Priori. That's the other big elevation change. But apart from that, it's pretty much that's it. But these elevation changes really don't do that much to really upset the cars in here. The Enfield section, the part of Priori, Brooklands, and Lovefield, that is the most slippery section that you're gonna have in the track in here today as they approach in here today. Let's see if Felipe Leber gets to slide the car again, because Greg Seitz and Kane Halliburton, yeah, I don't think they're putting that much of a pressure, but sometimes just riding way too close, sometimes the car in front, it can just upset him just a little bit.
Number one, Felipe Bear again fighting the oversteer through this final section of the racetrack. Comes out of left field, and he fought understeer on exit last time, and again he does it. Dips two left tires off onto the grass on the left-hand side, and now coming down this front straightaway. The number two, Greg Seitz, might be close enough to make a move down into Copps here, but no, he's going to decide to stay in the slipstream for now. Maybe he'll make a move down into Maggots, Beckens, and Chapel. Very difficult part of the racetrack to really think about making a move. Felipe Bear again pushes a little bit wide onto the AstroTurf. That's somewhere you need to be careful. You've got one driver way off the racetrack. That's going to be Tuan Tron. Everything's going to be all right, but still using all sorts of runoff. And now into the Maggots, Beckens, Chapel complex go your leaders. One lane through this entire segment of the racetrack, but you can make moves happen if you're side by side early. Basically, if you're offline, you have to give way. There's no other real option for you. But now down this long hanger straightaway, Greg Seitz is actually interestingly not using the slipstream of that number one machine to try to get closer to make a move. And actually, they're going to be three wide in the back. This is between Precario, Sainz, as well as Halliburton. No, it's not Halliburton, sorry. But three wide into Stowe here. And who's going to be the... It's going to be Carlos Sainz, who manages to pick himself up a couple spots out here, Alvin. Justin Tipton goes from 4th to 6th. Sainz goes from 6th to 4th as he goes to the inside. Now down into Vales. The 13 of Precario, I think, took a shot from the 7 behind. And the 10 not able to make the inside work at the first part of Club. Now going to the inside of, on the outside of Club. He's going to fall back another couple positions here early.
Yeah, that is pretty much an example of when you use the draft and you use it properly, that's what you can do. But also, you also have to be able to keep the momentum going in here. And on this track, the turns are relatively high-speed turns. And as I say, that Justin Tipton and Carlos Urrea Sainz fighting here for P number 4 coming into bridge, now into Priori. But yeah, still going side by side. But Justin Tipton just able to take that P5 for now. But this is pretty much an example of when you see, cars trying to, and well, as I say that, well, we got a crash here, car number 9.
Car number 9 got himself into the incident. This is Justin Smith. We'll get a replay for you of this up shortly. This is coming now down into the tight section of the racetrack once again. Just side-by-side contact with the 14. That's Mike McCormick he got into, Alvin. And really, that's just one of the sections of the racetrack where a lot of people see that as a very good passing opportunity. But you have to be overly committed at breaking into Priory to make that pass stick. And I just don't think he was quite close enough to ever make that work with Justin Smith. And Mike McCormick, I don't think really ever expected that move to come through. A little bit of side-by-side contact just sent the 9 around. The 14, though, able to carry on. A little bit of side pod damage, but I think otherwise okay.
Absolutely. And if you think not only going through that infield section of Priority, Brooklands, and Lovefield, that is a relatively easy part to do an overtake, but also going into Abbey, I think those are perhaps the most obvious overtaking opportunities that we will see in here today, because really don't see on these high-speed turns, like coming out of the hanger straight going into Stowe, it's so high speed that trying to do an overtake and sticking it, it'll be really hard.
And it is your top three come through club now again, and you see these guys, they keep it very, very tight on the exit in these Skip Barber cars. Very unusual line from what you might be used to seeing, but Felipe Bear and Greg Seitz continue to lead the way, and they have sort of stretched a slight gap over Kane Halliburton. Not a lot, but they have started just opening up the gap a little bit to that number 5 machine, and Halliburton is going to be the one who has to try to get through the 2 teammates that are running 1 and 2 right now. This second pack still very, very tight. Alvin, they've been able to reel the gap back in to Andrew Picario after that intense fight for Justin Tipton and Carlos Sainz.
Absolutely, and not only they have been able to close the gap a little bit, but you know, I think they kind of got the message that if you want to do the overtake, you really have to commit to it. So I think it will be really interesting now to see if these 6 cars in this pack from P4 all the way to P9, if they can work together instead of trying to race each other. Yeah, they are going through the draft right now, but I think they will be more a bit more calm. But well, sorry about to say that, but talking about calm, Justin Tipton going for P number 4 and Duan Tron going really wide coming out of turn number 1. Let's see if he can get up, but now going 3 wide into the Beckett's complex. Carlos Sainz takes that position away. Wow, Randy, I think that is what I call a power move.
Definitely an overzealous move there, but Carlos Sainz saw an opening and went for it. Fantastic maneuver to pick himself up a couple spots, Alvin. And I was actually about to say, every single week we say that if that second pack can work together, they might be able to reel in the leaders, but we've never once seen this second pack ever work together to try to reel them back in. Carlos Sainz makes it 3 wide, and he's not done fighting yet. Justin Smith takes a look up the inside at the end of the hanger straight. He's going to pick up that 4th position over Carlos Sainz, but Sainz has the cutback on the exit. He's going to have the inside line on the braking zone into Vale, but we saw earlier Sainz on the inside at Vale didn't quite work out. It was actually the outside line through Vale and then into club where you have the inside that works, and it works again. Justin Tipton making that driver's right-hand side of the racetrack, Alvin, worked beautifully. These little cars like that end of the racetrack, but the 10 of Sainz, he's getting ready to fight back now on the run down into the Abbey chicane, side by side once again. Now hard on the brakes, Justin Tipton on the inside for the first part, and again, Sainz is going to work the cutback. The 7 is able to get single file on the fence for now, but the 10 should have traction. Actually, no, he doesn't down into bridge. This should calm everything down. Let's see if anyone tries to make a big move up into Priory, and no, the 10 takes a little bit of a peek, but doesn't really commit. He's mostly just, I think, offsetting himself with the braking zone, but really, here, Alvin, these guys duking out really, really hard on this slippery Silverstone circuit as they're quickly approaching halfway.
And I think Carlos Sainz was more defending from Andrew Procario going into Priory more than him getting upset going here under braking. Now, going back to the battle for the lead here, as we got Kane Halliburton and Felipe Bear and Greg Seitz. Greg Seitz was able to overtake Felipe Bear going into turn number 1.
So Greg Seitz picks up your race lead here as they work themselves into Magus Beckton Chapel. Fantastic move from him going into corner number 1. Kane Halliburton, though, not close enough to be able to slip through into second, and he still has 2 teammates running 1-2 in front of him. When will he make his move as we're currently working lap number 6 of 12. Next lap will bring us halfway. As, by the way, if you want to keep track of this fight, Justin Tipton has traded spots a couple more times with Carlos Sainz. Justin Tipton started this lap in 4th. He's now already fallen back down to 6th as they work down the hanger straight, and Tuan Tron is making a move for 7th, and making a move for it. So move Justin Tipton from 4th all the way down to 7th, down 3 positions. Alvin, I think these guys are letting their egos in the second pack a little bit get the best of them, because they're just fighting so hard with one another. One of them is just going to end up losing just more time, and that person ended up being Justin Smith.
And not only lose time, but also lose a lot of points here, because the way that they are fighting here, I kind of started noticing that they have been racing really aggressive here on this secondary pack that we are seeing from P4 all the way to P9. And Randy, I wouldn't be surprised if from this pack, considering how hard they are racing, I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 here get a blown engine.
That is something these guys need to keep in mind here today. We've seen it in a lot of these draft circuits where drivers will be so close to one another and they'll be pushing so hard that they'll lose track of the temps. And these Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars, they aren't designed to be kept in a slipstream for even a short race like this, just 12 laps. Talking about 25 minutes or so of abuse when you look at the lap time. These engines not designed for that, not designed to work at that sort of temperature range. So for these guys, they have to keep that in the back of their heads here as they run. We've seen so many people blow motors. We saw someone blow a motor on the last lap last week. I think you're right, Alvin. I don't think you can really rule it out for any of these guys that happening again here today.
Absolutely. Now coming here out of cups, this secondary pack. Carlos Sainz goes really wide going into cups. Let's see, Andrew Procario kind of sees an opportunity going into the Beckett complex, but no, decides to stay just behind Carlos Sainz and Tuan Tran. He may get a bit of a run here. Now coming into Beckett's, now going through, Beckett's, now Chapel. Let's see if Tuan Tran can get a run here, and also Andrew Procario, if he can get a run here out of Carlos Sainz.
So here goes the 10 again, looking out in front. And I think, I was going to say they're going to be relatively calm, but Procario and Tuan Tran both pounced at the last second at the end of the hanger straight. They were about to be 3 wide, but Procario is the one who got down to the inside first, and Tran backed out of it. Moved Tran back to the head of this race lead, as Sainz is going to be fighting with Tran. No, I take that back. Tran is going to be fighting with Tipton. Tipton, we think, has the preferred line from what we've seen thus far of these Skip Barber cars. And yes, he's going to be able to make that move stick on the outside of Vail once again, Alvin. That line, very interestingly in these cars, seems to be preferred.
And not only that, but well, you also have to consider, I said at the beginning of the broadcast that this track is relatively smooth, but that part coming into Vail and Club, I think that's perhaps the bumpiest section on the track today. But for these cars, considering that they are relatively underpowered, well, they're not going to have that problem spinning the tires if they keep it on the inside. So I think that is why we are seeing most of the drivers here keeping the car as much to the inside as possible.
So these guys work through this tight section, basically all single file again through here. There's a couple points in this racetrack where there's really only one line. One is going through the S's, another one is going to be going through that corner at the end of the hanger straight. Really only one line through there, but you can run side by side and make passes stick. But Andrew Procario doesn't get a good jump off the final corner, and Carlos Sainz gonna pounce at the opportunity into corner number 1 yet again, and he's gonna make this move stick. And let's see what kind of run can the cars behind get, and I don't think enough. The number 10 is Sainz, gonna be unchallenged, but they're gonna be side by side. The 7 at Tipton fighting with Tuan Tran side by side into the S's here, and Tran with the preferred line, he's gonna pick up the spot.
Not only he picks up the spot, but also put a little bit of style in it. He slid just a little bit, but as I'm talking about sliding, Justin Tipton may have a little bit of an advantage because you can slide on these cars and it looks cool and everything, but it's all about momentum. And Tuan Tran just lost that little bit of momentum, and he may also have lost the draft as well.
Well, they're 3 wide behind right now. Fighting for position is Justin Tipton on the inside. He's going to reign supreme. There's also Hakan Grabstad, someone we've not really talked today, as well as Carl Dronke. They're side by side right now on the run into Vail. And again, Tipton in the preferred line. And let's see, Grabstad, can he make this inside line work at Vail? No one's been able to make it stick. And again, no one's been able to make that stick. What do you think it is, Alvin, about these little cars that make that outside run at Vail so favored over, basically having the traditional line down on the braking zones in that tight left-hander? I've seen that outside defensive move work in other cars, but more often than not, it's the driver who's on driver's left at the inside of that 90-degree left-hander who reigns supreme.
Yeah, well, as we were talking about that, we also kind of missed what was going here in the front. Philippe Lebert able to overtake Greg Seisser here for the lead, battling really hard side by side and coming into Vail and Club. So, it's pretty much the same concept that you were talking, Randy. Try to keep it on the inside. That is the preferred line, especially for these cars. And Philippe Lebert was also being able to make it work. And now, well, he is leading this race with only 4 laps to go.
So 4 laps to go as they come across the stripe here. And let's see, what is Felipe Bear and Greg Seitz? What's in their game plan here? We know that these guys are probably going to play somewhat calm with one another through corner number 1 and probably towards the end. We've seen the leads get shuffled back around a few times here today, but normally these two will be calm with one another down into the S's they go. And Greg Seitz may have had just about half an open window to maybe take a peek on, but not going to, of course, force that move on the one of Felipe Bear. Down through the S's they come. And I think here, Alvin, we can expect these two to play somewhat calm again. I think right now, if one of them has the run, I think they'll give way and essentially be leapfrogging with the slipstream. And you see Greg Seitz has a run, and Felipe Bear is going somewhat defensive, but Greg Seitz going to look on driver's left at the end of the hangar straight, and he's not quite clear, They might be side by side here at Stowe. Down through the corner at the end of the longest straight on the racetrack, and that 2 machine not going to be able to get that move done just yet. These guys are going to fight hard, and this is going to be big trouble, I think, for the two teammates, because Kane Halliburton going to have the preferred line. He actually pulls out of it. I think that was a bad move by Kane Halliburton. Normally advise patience, but I think Kane should have forced the issue there, and I think he would have been able to pick up the second spot, as these guys are still all under their blanket on the run down through club.
And I think this is the possibility of perhaps Kane Halliburton saying, you know what, enough is enough, let's start racing here. Now Felipe Bear, and that also kind of forced Greg Seitz to kind of go more into attacking his teammate Felipe Bear, which can also force a mistake for any of them. And I think that is the chance that Kane Halliburton is trying to look right now. Yes, he could have been a little bit more aggressive and trying to go for P2, even perhaps for the lead of this race, but I think now he is pretty much trying to send a message. Time to go, 3 laps to go, let's go now.
3 laps to go at the line, and Felipe Bear still leads. We got that second pack is still hot right now between 5 drivers. That same guy is still fighting very, very close here. As your leader is going to come across now. Tron, Precario, Tipton, and Gobstead. Those guys down your front straightaway to your start-finish line. Officially be 3 laps to go right now. Seitz, bit of a run, might take a look up the inside on LeBear. No, he's not. He's going to pull out of it, Alvin.
Yeah, I think, you know, coming here into cups perhaps may not be the wisest move, trying to go for the overtake. Perhaps after going through Magus Beckett's chapel, perhaps that is the best place to try to place your car for an overtake. But as we have seen, coming out of the hangar straight into Stowe, there is no guarantee that you will be able to get the overtake. So I think the key point here is, if Greg Seitz is going for that move, can he put it inside coming into Stowe? That way, yeah, he will be at a disadvantage coming into Vale, but going into club, he will have the preferred inside line.
So again, Greg Seitz going to look to driver's left as they go down into Stowe once again. Can he make the outside line work? He knows it's ahead, and he should be able to carry some momentum. Kane Halliburton, I think, needs to be more aggressive here as these two fight it out. But the two teammates side by side into Vale. Seitz, we're thinking, not on the preferred line based on what we've seen thus far. Halliburton not quite close enough to make it work, and yet again, that outside line not really paying off on the outside of club. Or did I speak too soon? Felipe Bear here, Alvin, not able to make that inside run at club work, and that's for the first time today. Greg Seitz makes that inside move at Vale stick, and for the first time, that inside run through club didn't come back and fight for the person who was making the move at Vale.
And I think it had to do more with Greg Seitz leaving a little bit less room than we have seen in here today, because usually we see the guy on the inside have the preferred line, and I think that was also what Kane Halliburton was expecting, staying to the inside instead of going to the outside, because he was expecting Felipe Bear to kind of take the advantage, and perhaps that was the opportunity. Kane Halliburton was also looking to take P2, but unfortunately Felipe Bear has his momentum just a little bit compromised, and well, Kane Halliburton still in P3, but I think this is not the end of it.
Definitely not the end of it for sure, as we still have 2 laps to go around this 3.2 mile racetrack here at Silverstone. And Greg Seitz early going defensive on the run down your front straight into corner number 1. Felipe Bear, I think he had the momentum, and I think he could have maybe slaughtered a move up the inside, but just didn't quite do it. They're going to come from corner number 1 and quickly go down this run into corner number 2. Your top 3 very, very close, and you see LeBear offsetting himself. Seitz going defensive, but they're going to be single file right now. I think the hangar straight, Alvin, is where you need to make your move.
And I think that is the point that Kane Halliburton, perhaps he should start considering, you know what, I think I've had enough. You guys have been battling for the lead. How about perhaps if we think about going free wide? But as I said that, and it looks like Kane Halliburton was not able to get a good run coming out of Chapel, so I think he's gonna stay behind now. If Felipe Bear, let's see, coming here to the left, going side by side into Stowe. Let's see what happens. Greg Seitz still on the inside. Philippe Lebert just a little bit of room, trying to get a good run here, going into Vale, turn number 8. Still a little bit side by side, but I think perhaps we could see Philippe Lebert trying to do the same tactic, not leave that much room for Greg Seitz to get a good run here, coming into Club, and I think that's pretty much what I was thinking, but no, he left a little bit of room, and Greg Seitz was able to get a good run and goes for the block here for Kane Halliburton, and Philippe Lebert and Greg Seitz fighting really hard for the lead.
Nowhere to go for Kane Halliburton from third to get himself up any advantage, but again, we see your leaders be the only cars able to make the inside run at Vale stick to the outside of Club. Great move by both Greg Seitz a few laps ago and then Philippe Lebert just there as these guys are going to be coming to the white. This time, Philippe Lebert all sorts of loose into Priory, and Greg Seitz is going to get brought into the picture here. The two machines side by side with the one through this tight left-hander, and now on the run into Luffield coming to the white. They're going to be side by side again. I think Philippe Lebert going to be able to hold on for now after that mistake. But Alvin, final lap, white flag is out, no room for mistakes, and Kane Halliburton's making a move for P2.
And I think this is pretty much as a result of the hard fighting that Philippe Lebert and Greg Seitz have been doing. Kane Halliburton saw an opening as we go through the white flag. It looks like Kane Halliburton is clear enough to take this P2. Now coming here into Cops. I think Kane Halliburton may be here in the driver's seat. Yes, he has not been in the lead of this race, but you know what, Randy? It doesn't matter what you do at the throughout the race. What matters is what position you finish at the end of the race. And I think Kane Halliburton can have a pretty good chance here for the victory today.
Well, he's got the teammates divided up finally. He's got one lap to make it work after getting them split down the hanger straight and on down the run into Stowe. They come for the final time. This is the longest straightaway and arguably the best opportunity at getting a pass started that Kane Halliburton has. They go side by side. He's not going to get the pass done at Stowe, but he's going to start it here. He's got to get the job done at Vale and through Club. They're going to be side by side here through the Stowe corner, and a slight hiccup from Halliburton. A little bit of a wiggle is going to hurt his momentum, and he's just going to be able to maintain the overlap. He has to be super aggressive and not give Lebert much room at all here at Vale through this tight left-hander, and now through the long right-hander at Club, and he didn't get it right. Now he's fighting with Greg Seitz for second on the inside, but he manages to get the momentum back, and he's going to be in second for now, single file. Needs to work the slipstream on Philippe Lebert down this run into Abbey. The move won't come here, I won't think. He won't be close enough, but he needs to close the gap. He needs to get Abbey perfect so he can potentially throw a move down into Priory at turn number 14. Through the Abbey chicane on the run into Bridge, under the bridge, and through the right-hander they come. These guys probably almost flat through that corner. Hard on the brakes, and he's going to make the move. No, he doesn't. He thought about it, and then got out of it. Greg Seitz had to get all over the brakes and lock him up. I think he got it into the back of the 5 machine, as the 5 has lost a little bit of room to the 1 now, and the 1 of Philippe Lebert has a comfortable margin here. They're also fighting a little bit deeper in the pack as well. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but Kane Halliburton comes off the final corner, nowhere near close enough to the 1 of Philippe Lebert, and Philippe Lebert will come through and win the 12-lap event here at Silverstone. Halliburton will take second with Seitz in third. Tron will somehow get himself up into fourth, and you see he has a big gap to the likes of Tipton, Precario, Grabstead, and Sainz.
And Hakon Grabstead and Carlos Ureza going side by side here for the finish. It looks like Hakon Grabstead was able to get a P7 over Carlos Ureza, but Randy, overall, I gotta say it was a fantastic race. Yes, it had a lot less overtakes than what we were expecting compared to what we had on the previous round, but nevertheless, everybody here put in here a fantastic race here today.
That it was a beautiful race, close fight for the lead, and close fights in that second pack as we come to expect in the Skip Barber Championship. But let's go down your post-race results after 12 laps of running in these Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars at Silverstone. So Philippe Lebert takes the win, just 0.6 of a second over Kane Halliburton, with Greg Seitz rounding out your top 3. Your podium with Tron and Justin Tipton finishes out your top 5. Andrew Precario and Hakon Grabstead, they come home P6 and 7, followed by Carlos Sainz, Carl Dronke, and Alex McKellar to round out the top 10. Vivi Gretti, Christian Capanga, Edwin Valrino, Jeremiah Morton, Daniel Fogarini, Mike McCormick, and Justin Smith make up the 17-car field. Today, all cars finished on the lead lap. All cars finished within 47 seconds of one another. So a very clean race today, Alvin. Very low attrition race, which is always good to see on these big tracks.
It certainly was, Randy. And you know, something that really surprised me, I thought that the slipstream was going to play a bigger factor in here today, but the X factor perhaps what that we could talk Balin Club. I think setting up that turn, it was one of the most important things that you had to do if you wanted to get a good position, especially considering how competitive this field is here today.
That it was. Now, next week, we're going to be going to one of the biggest racetracks in North America, Alvin. That's Road America. These little Formula 2000 cars, I mean, of all the big tracks to throw them, you might as well throw them at Le Mans, because, I mean, that is some long straights for these little cars. I think the slipstream is going to be inevitable there next week.
If it is something to go from what we saw last season, the 5-car battle for the lead, I think you are absolutely right, Randy. And it's going to be a lot more different than this track because, yes, we are going back to a roller coaster. But not only that, many of the turns here at Road America, they are really slow turns. So keeping that momentum and getting those exit of the turns will be the most important thing for the drivers.
That it was, but that is going to do it for us here today on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Thank you for tuning in and enjoying the coverage of your Skip Barber Racing School Championship as we officially began the second half of the season here today. And be sure to tune in next week for Silverstone, which should be a fantastic race. So from everyone here at RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, from myself, Randy Chinnett, Alvin Nieves, and Hugo Louise, have a good night, iRacing fam. See you next time.